Good afternoon, Ansary here. It is Halloween. Hope you're all having a great time, whatever your plans are for the day. It's not typically a day in which I do anything. I'm not a big fan of Halloween, but I do miss trick-or-treat as a young child, right? There is a lighter side of Halloween, but this is a time, ladies and gentlemen, as we go from fall into winter, as the temperatures change, that we need to activate our own light within, right? So we're going to be getting into our main topic, but a couple of announcements, right? We just had a recent intense geomagnetic storm. Although it wasn't like a G2 or a G3, it was more like a G1, but there was constant solar activity for about a day. And we also saw this pattern several months ago as well, when there was ongoing geomagnetic activity for multiple days. As I advised you in a recent video, these are times for spiritual practice, martial arts, as I've talked about in the past, Qigong, bringing in that solar energy. And so in the days that pass, these geostorms, these are periods in which you want to go out, you want to go outside and soak up that natural life-giving energy, right? It's one thing to talk about being poisoned by the chemtrails. It's one thing to talk about being poisoned by the aspartame. It's one thing to be a victim of this and a victim of that. But when it comes to empowering yourself, right, we need to be looking at how the sun gives us life and to steer away from theories that lead us away from understanding the true solar gnosis. So, in this video, I'm going to be discussing the problem with conspiracy theorists, right? So, get ready to be illuminated. Get ready to be enlightened. But for some of you, also get ready to be offended. Although, I don't think that many of you that are subscribing to this channel are really going to be all that offended. I think most of you are going to appreciate the things that I have to say. And for Scott and others that are leaving positive comments on my Substack page, from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to those of you that did listen to my online radio broadcast back in the day. I appreciate that. But I also wonder, where are those people that I used to talk to in Portland, Oregon, in which I was on the air for over a decade? There was almost way more energy put into that than Oracle Broadcasting and other Patriot Radio websites. But it is what it is. And this is a time, folks, in which behind the scenes, I've been doing a lot of purging, right? What some of you may already have picked up on is that the old Alex Ansary is dead. Not in a literal sense, right? I'm not a clone, right? Or am I, right? Ooh, start up the conspiracy theories. What happened to the old Alex Ansary who just let the world walk on him, right? That man is dead. The new Alex Ansary has arrived. And so it's going to be a little too spicy for some folks. It's going to be a little bit too high energy for some folks to be hearing the things that I'm saying now. As Scott said, it's like he's learned more about me in recent weeks and days than from years of listening to my old podcasts. And so even though I miss those old podcasts, right? You compare that content to the current content and it's worlds apart. This is a book that an old friend made for me. It says World War Zero, right? Named after an old website of mine that I let expire, which was a mistake. But anyway, right? Spilt milk. Because World War III will have no winner in reality, right? So it's about World War Zero, zero winners, because the hidden hand controls it all. In this book, I jotted down a number of things that I intend to discuss, and I don't want to be too top heavy with my notes, so to speak, but I did write down some things that came to me. And so we're going to be discussing some of the glaring problems with the mainstream conspiracy movement, right? That doesn't mean that everybody that believes in a top-down agenda where the unseen forces are manipulating our world are into the dark side. It's that the vast majority of them are led by algorithms and bad men, selfish men, men and women on the dark side that easily share fake news without having the spirit of discernment within them to let them know when they are dabbling with dark affairs, disinformation, bearing false witness, acting like they're against hatred and against the New World Order, when in fact being their pawns. And so from listening to this broadcast, from this video, in which you are welcome to share with others, right? The goal is not for you to be entertained. And the goal for me is to not make a lot of money or to have a lot of viewers. The goal is to help your soul evolve beyond the old self that you were. Because in this new period of energy that we're in, some of the ideas that I'm speaking to you about should make more sense, right? So we're just getting warmed up before we jump right in the pool. There was an uncle of mine on my father's side of the family who has not engaged with my content in the last several decades, but he did during the day of the eclipse. While he and others might not know about the power of the eclipse, yes, there's murder, there's mayhem, there's violence. These are also moments in which elements of our society wakes up. And at that moment, they're receptive to the message. There was a lot of receptiveness to my live eclipse video, and that was actually censored on Facebook. I recorded for 2 hours, but only 15 minutes remained out of those 2 1-hour recordings. But I recorded a third video, still having the energy from the eclipse, and there was some positive energy where there was a few relatives on my father's side that tapped into that content. Of course, when the weeks followed, I continued to talk about those things and their homeland from a deeper perspective, and then they tuned out. So I'm here to tell you that when we go through these eclipses, yes, we deal with the malevolent nature of it all, but it's also a time in which we could reach out to people. Message in a bottle, although this time I will not karaoke, right? Thank you, Bob Dylan, right? Who said, you want to hear more Alex Ansary karaoke? Well, Bob Dylan, more is coming on the way. Just kidding. But message in a bottle. There are times in which we go through these energy shifts in which people that might not normally be receptive to the truth are receptive to the truth. Okay, so let's begin. I'm just going to go down in a linear manner. The problem with conspiracy theorists today, mainstream conspiracy theorists, as opposed to those that are truly awake, is that they're led by algorithms. Despite the fact that they don't trust the mainstream media, many of them have a blind trust of YouTube. And many of them, including those that fall into flat earth theories, fail to understand and identify with their brain that the algorithm will often promote flat earth next to neo-Nazism. So it's not a mistake that certain figures might be into both that and denying the Holocaust. And I want nothing to do with either of those genres. And there's nothing that I am doing in my content creation to attract individuals that are either into one level of content such as that, or the other. I talk about the sun. I talk about the sun as a source of life. I don't talk about worshiping the sun. I also talk about the malevolent energies from the sun, but the sun is powerful, and the sun may be a liberating force in the event of a robotic apocalypse. But when you look at suspicious observers and other channels from content creators that I've met in the past that I want nothing to do with, they have a different view of the sun, a sun that is dying, or a solar flare kill shot that will eradicate human society. And even though that is going to be an unfortunate thing that may happen, and I've talked about that as well in my interview with Matthew Stein, we do need to be prepared for these solar flares. In the end, I do believe that what is coming from the sun is from God, is going to be divine intervention. And that's something that I gravitate to more than rapture theories and ascension theories and anything to do with 5D. I'm going to be moving back and forth, and I may repeat myself a few times. And of course, this content, the ideas shared in this video have already been shared in some other way, in some other podcast on my main platforms. But today is the day to centralize a lot of these points, because you're listening to, you're watching an individual that now has nothing to do with any of these folks. Doesn't matter if I interviewed Alex Jones in the past. Doesn't matter if I interviewed David Icke in the past, maybe 1, 2, 3 times, and met him once. Many of these people stopped talking to me for reasons I already expressed in the past when the fake news epidemic of 2014 came, and people such as myself were seen as the enemy. And so there's a lot of hypocrisy and Satanism in the modern conspiracy theory movement. This is not an accident. This is of the devil, because as the old song says, that some of you may have heard back in the day, they want your soul. And so if you're going to be in the business, not literally the business of making money, but investing your time and energy in waking as many souls up to what the dark grid is really doing and leading them astray, individuals like that will be suppressed by the algorithm. They will be slandered. They will be attacked. In some cases, they will be killed. Whereas others that are knowingly deceiving their flock, which is totally okay with being lied to because of the reality of tribalism, enjoying the fact that they're being lied to by people that look more like them than, say, myself. They will gravitate towards these deceivers due to that psychosis in the brain. And they will never, in some cases, wake up to the fact that the vast majority of some of the people that they have been watching are, in fact, full of crap and put out way more fake news and disinformation and engage in way more fake predictions than actually calling things accurately. And there's reasons for that. As far as the biological imperative, to borrow a term from Bruce Lipton, who has written a book called The Biology of Belief, Epigenetics. But in brief, a lot of human beings have a natural disposition with regards to tribalism. This includes people from my father's culture and family, to where they won't like mixed race humans. They won't like different people with different ideas that are outside of their religion and culture. They will stick with what they perceive are their own. They will feel safer that way. Their biology, right? Their flesh, mammon, flesh, physical, fallen world, right? This is not holy. The flesh is not holy. So in this fallen world, there is programming in the DNA of the vast majority of humans to be tribalists. Unless, of course, those that control the media, which we now live in this world of mass media, if the world of mass media wants to say, well, it's okay for this type of a human and this type of human to come together and have babies, right? As you're seeing now on Amazon Prime and others, right? Certain humans coming together, having relationships, that's okay. But other humans coming together and having mixed race kids, that's evil. That's like alien DNA with humans. The Bible says in the Old Testament, the fallen gods should not mate with the earthlings. I'm here to tell you, right, that Old Testament BS has been injected into the alternative media, where certain humans are seen as lesser than or a threat to white civilization. And I'm here to tell you, being in this biological spacesuit, who has suffered greatly because of the knowledge that I have been expressing through this body, it's resulted in my own isolation. And because of the hatred that's going on out there, right, I can only trust maybe 1% of the audience, maybe 5% of the audience, and I do not directly engage with the vast majority of the people that consume my content, right? Maybe 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20. And when I do engage with them, right, and I answer their questions, hey, Alex, what do you think about this channel and these preppers over here, right? And I may respond to someone with great detail as to what I really think about full spectrum survival, his recent YouTube video, of which I posted a screenshot of recently, right? Many people will want my opinion on that, but they may feel a sense of loyalty also to some of these content creators that they've been watching for years, for whatever reason, and speculating about that would take longer. And so I noticed that in our world and in our day and age, some people, not all, some people go blank when I give them a detailed response. Like somebody in the World War III is Coming group on Facebook wants to know why Muslims aren't involved in calling out global corruption, why they're not calling out anti-Semitism. And I'm here to say that, dude, the algorithm suppresses certain people of color, especially those folks, and people that are ethnic from those regions from ever being noticed. So even if there are those individuals, and I think there is one Muslim that just added me on YouTube or just started to follow me, and I looked at some of his content, and he's calling out these Islamic governments for killing their own people, asking the question, is there an agenda to eradicate Muslims in Muslim countries? This is not something that American conspiracy theorists talk about, nor do they really expose that the Taliban was placed in power in the 1990s in Afghanistan. They were funded behind the scenes by Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan is connected to the CIA in the United States of America, right? So you should be able to connect the dots, folks. You should be able to have a certain level of intelligence to have that aha moment, go, aha, The Afghani people were set up for a fall. They were free before. The women were free before. Now they're enslaved to the Taliban. And the existence of the Taliban is being used against innocent Afghanis to justify their persecution. It's like, hello, McFly. Hello. You want to talk about white persecution? You want to talk about black persecution? You want to talk about Latino persecution? Why can't you talk about their persecution? And you see all these folks out there that come to the aid of the Palestinians for good reason. Look at what Israel has done to them, but why are they really coming to the aid of the Palestinians while cursing other ethnic minorities? How many of you have ever had that aha moment? Why am I the only one to talk to you about this? I am a man like no other. There is no man like me. This cannot be denied. There is no man like me on earth. There are things that I speak of. There's a combination of factors. Scott and others may be intelligent enough to pick up on that, even if they may not understand the solar stuff. But if you literally go down the list of the different things that I talk about, I do not copy paste content from others. I may have learned from Burl Payne, who wrote about the solar cycles, and the cycles of war and peace. I may have learned from Alexander Chevetsky, but this was already info that I already had in my DNA, in my ancestry. And so my soul is accessing that dormant DNA or junk DNA, and it's literally being expressed through the throat chakra. And it's actually at a level that most people don't understand. And so a video like this will have maybe 10 views. But I'd rather have 10 quality views and keep the positive comments coming than have 300 views or 3,000 views and basically like have a bunch of negative energy. And so there's a reason why I don't use my original YouTube channel, even if I can reach more people. It's because there's something wrong with that channel. It seems like there's a lot of negativity that I feel when I log in to that channel. And there's other phenomena that have taken place, like all my comments from the past being deleted. And so there's a lot of people in the conspiracy movement act like they're targets when in fact they're doing really well. They're eating really well. They have significant others. They have kids in their lives. Their fathers, their mothers. They live in nice homes. And yet they have the guts, the nerve to call themselves victims when they've never been homeless. And a guy like me, speaking of the things that I talk about, I have faced what could be described as chronic homelessness for basically 10 years, if we're honest with ourselves. Sure, I may have gone off grid and lived without a toilet, lived without running water, right? But was I really living well during those years? Either in the yurt in Costilla County or in a teardrop camper in Portland, Oregon, or when I went to Southwest Colorado and lived up in them hills, right? Living off of hardly anything per month, a few hundred a month, eating poor food, eating top ramen, eating eggs that were not refrigerated, even eating lots of pork sausage. Gotta love that pork sausage with the preservatives. No refrigerator needed, right? Not bathing unless I went to the hot springs to get a bath. And sleeping on a mattress, a faux mattress this big, right? For those of you that remember my old bedroom in the upper area of the shed, do you realize how damaging that was to my spine? Also, when I was robbed by a mob in Portland, Oregon, when I tried to buy dirt weed at Waterfront Park, and they didn't like the fact that I didn't want to buy their crappy weed for 20 bucks. I wanted a bigger bag. And I pulled out my camera to start filming when the guy started aggressively advancing towards me, and he kicked it out of my hands. And then another punk, right? So the black guy kicked it out of my hands, and then his white friend picked up my camera, my flip camera, and threw it in the Willamette River. I guess I'm lucky they didn't throw my ass in the river. There was a mob of 15 of them. And then a big dude starts standing up, like bouncer style, to step in case I fought back. Like totally satanic, folks. Portland is totally satanic, and it's not for good souls. That's why there's nobody in Portland helping spread my word. There may be a few people out there that watch my content in Portland, but they do nothing to either contribute to my work or share my content with others, because that Portland energy has corrupted them. And if they want to prove me wrong, then show me what you're doing to help my message survive. Not just ask me if I've got more content, right? Because I know you need the truth, because you're in Portland and you don't have a man of truth speaking to you. So I know you want to watch my content, but what are you doing, people of Portland and elsewhere, to actually help me get my content out there? It's like when I start talking about the help that I need, volunteers, they tell me how busy they are. You know what? That's a lot of bullshit. Okay? Don't bullshit me. People have time for BitChute. If people have time for conspiracy theories, you have time to share my content on the web. But I'll give you some advice. Don't share my work with people that are polluted up in the brain. I don't need a bunch of weird friend requests on Facebook. And I do flip off my Facebook post, my Facebook page rather, quite often. And so people will make a beeline for my energy on Facebook, wanting to feed on my light, but yet they'll ignore my outside the box TV with Facebook page, which is always up, which has all my content, but it doesn't have my energetic essence there. It's just my information. So people make a beeline for my Facebook page and comment on me on my post there while completely ignoring my outside the box TV with Alex Ansary page. And they won't even know why they're ignoring that content. That page is valuable, folks. And in my opinion, for the amount of years that I've had that page, it should have thousands and thousands and thousands of likes and engagement, not struggling at 700. And by the way, right now it's at 769. It used to be 1,000. And so when I took time off of the internet to ground and center, to step back from broadcast intoxication and psychic attack, also known as spiritual warfare, for those that are more on the Christian side of things, 200 likes were removed from my Facebook page. 1,000 people were unsubscribed from my YouTube channel. All the comments were removed from my YouTube channel, driving down the ranking of those videos. And while people talk about censorship on Google and YouTube, they don't say a damn thing when I inform them that oraclebroadcasting.com, AmericanFreedomRadio.com, Republic Broadcasting Network, WTPRN, and the fake news German website, Disclose.tv, they have all removed every trace of Alex Ansary ever having posted on those websites. This would include other websites such as Infowars.com and many more. So people want to talk about censorship. They're hypocrites to not identify the censorship in the mainstream conspiracy movement, which is dominated now by open white supremacy and accusing all migrants of being rapists, when in fact, that's not the truth. If you really want to push back against the New World Order, you need to be open to hearing different perspectives from other ethnicities. This is a time now in which I'm going to tell you about Julie Epperly. Okay? And she may not be liked by a lot of people. But see, there's more truth coming out of this Vietnamese woman than there is from, say, 10 popular conspiracy theorists, whether they're David Icke, Tim Pool, because she promotes accountability. She speaks in a way that causes people to think about what are they doing in their own lives to attract some of these demonic forces, because that's really what she's about, is encouraging people to improve their diet, improve their outlook, and overcome these demons that have attached themselves to humanity. You know, I told you about Jesse Spongberg the other day, in which he was a Portland celebrity activist, and he claimed to have knocked out what he called was a Nazi. He was really just a right-winger who hated all migrants. But he falsely claimed to be the hero that knocked this guy out, even though that's assault, and he wasn't being attacked himself. Hence the whole punch a Nazi psychosis of the controlled psyops left, where anyone labeled a Nazi, they think they can just punch in the face. And I call him out, and I'm the only one, even though some people think I'm inferior. Think about this, folks. I want you to meditate on this. Take a break, put on some Tangerine Dream. I recommend the Exit album from 1982. Maybe I should just play it right now off of my audio player, right? But then I'll get a copyright strike, right? Meditate on the fact that Alex Ansary called out the fact that he lied about knocking that guy out for kudos, for street cred with the violent, degenerate left, when he wasn't the man who knocked out the conservative guy with the megaphone. It was another guy. And so I did analysis on that video with my intelligence. I was the only man that picked up on the fact, right, that I could see that he swung, he missed, and the other guy came in and knocked him out. Why was I the only guy that had the intelligence and the eyes to see and ears to hear that was able to slow down the video, zoom in frame by frame, and go, aha, he lied? Then I make a video about it, And I call him out, and then the Willamette Lake author goes to him and say, Jesse, this is what Alex Ansary had to say. What do you think? Are you going to listen to me, this tall white rapper, like his own version of Eminem, which even a cousin of mine named Anna follows on Facebook, and others? Are you going to listen to me or a conspiracy theorist into MK Ultra, UFOs, and aliens? And here's the hypocrisy. You got a obese white man by the name of Clyde Lewis who terrifies the living shit out of his audience, who literally is like some sort of a witch doctor who just spins shit up sometimes out of his ass because he's that brilliant. Clyde Lewis is a brilliant man. And if Clyde Lewis really want to serve God or serve the Christ spirit, not New Age deceivers and people connected to Ramtha and others that I won't mention, then Clyde Lewis can do a lot for the people of Portland. But if he was truly serving the light, he would not be on the radio. And there's a reason why he's on the radio, why Alex Jones has the following that he has, why David Icke has the following that he has. And people like me struggle to have 10 viewers per video with hardly any comments down below. In fact, even when I'm watching some of my own videos, YouTube will literally go to another video while I'm speaking. It will literally go to another video. And that's AI trying to intimidate me. And that's another discussion for another video. What AI has done to me. What has done to my computer. What the algorithm has done to my videos. Where you can't even find my best solar flare content anymore. Right? But I'm working to change that. And you can help me change that if you wanted to help spread my content to the right people on the internet. But Clyde's a white man who will talk about aliens, and he will be in bed with Alex Jones to a certain degree, but he won't be called out by Antifa. He won't be called out as a weirdo by the dominant white audience in Portland, Oregon. He won't be called out by Jesse Sponberg. He will be applauded. But yet I, a mixed race human being who does talk about the alien agenda, these white leftists that are being controlled by the hidden hand, they will have that genetic disposition and almost the voices in the head phenomena, demonic attack as opposed to technological. And they will be quick to judge me as a lesser than, quote, a conspiracy theorist. There's also other people in the past who I decided to no longer communicate with. And when I removed certain people from my Facebook in the past that I made the mistake of buying weed from and visiting, and once I realized that they were on the dark side, that they had a malicious attitude towards me, and I removed them from Facebook, then I get an email basically saying that I'm a conspiracy theorist. And then this person would go on to create his own channel and promote the fuck out of Rex Bear of the Leak Project. And for those of you that know who that is, that guy has conspiracy theories up the you-know-what. But he won't call out Trump. He won't call out hatred in the truth movement. He uses clickbait. He supposedly talks about the archons, but he's not really a man of God. And so it's hypocritical for people out there to call me a conspiracy theorist, and then the next year they straight up dabble in conspiracy theories and fake data about the sun, telling people that the next solar cycle is going to be a weak one. In reality, the info's coming out, folks, that we're going to have a strong solar cycle. And even if we do have an ice age, ladies and gentlemen, we're not there yet. And in some places in America, it is hot, hot, hot. Where have you been the last couple of years? That doesn't mean that the official view of global warming is accurate, but do not discount the increased output of the sun having an impact on weather events. Let me tell you something else. Carl Symington was my friend as a child, and while he didn't agree with the way I spoke on my show, he did talk about the Almighty and say that we should praise the Almighty and never take the Almighty, the true creator of this reality, out of the conversation. We need to take it to the Almighty. He would talk about the changes to come upon the earth and 1,000-mile winds and storms. And I'm telling you what, with what's happening with the earth's magnetic field weakening, with what's happening with the changes in the earth's core, with what's happening with these asteroid flybys, with what's happening with the changes in the sun, you are not paying attention if you think that every storm is caused by weather wars. Okay, that is the dark side messing with your mind, brothers and sisters. Okay, there really are earth changes that are upon us. And not everything is being manipulated by the New World Order. And there may be certain things that are to come, folks, massive grid outages that don't come back, that are not being controlled by the new world order or the corrupt global elite. It will be coming from the changes in the sun. Okay. There may be some outages that they blame on the sun or that they blame on cyber attacks, which, by the way, they're going to allow, as Russia, China, and the US are like this. And I told you this for years. But what other man has told you this, that China and Russia and the US are linked together and are planning to stage a third world war? What other man told you that the year 2025 would be very significant? What other man told you about the potential for the incoming invasion or occupation of the US and a human trafficking epidemic to follow as far back as 2007? What other man amongst you? Say his name, say her name. But in reality, you have a lot of people following Project Lies-a-Lot, Camelot, promising saviorship from the white hats. You have many people out there, from Ramtha to James and Washington State to others, that claim to be in contact with aliens and ascended masters, and they have given fake prediction after fake prediction, and they have endorsed Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Some of them did the same thing with Obama, and they were wrong then, and they were wrong now. And if you're really honest with yourself, you would understand there's plenty of people that voted for George W. Bush, here's another war, folks, to Obama, yeah, I'm the sexy black man who's going to end the wars and bring us world peace. Oh, that man's so hot. To Donald Trump, China, 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 right? Where was Donald Trump when Alex Ansary was warning about what could be coming with China, China, China? We know where Donald Trump was. He was involved in birtherism. Ooh, Obama the Muslim, Hussein Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. And I knew that that was insane in the membrane when fools were doing that then. It ain't about his name. It ain't about your false theories that he's Muslim or tied to the Muslim Brotherhood. It's that Obama's going to expand the bloodshed and wars and drone attacks that George W. Bush started, right? But where was the left and right on that issue? So we have the issue in which the conspiracy movement warned of FEMA camps. Gary Franchi, right, promoted Gary Franchi's documentary. When I was out the Portland Survival Store, I literally put a TV up to the window and played Camp FEMA. How many of you have ran around giving out Alex Jones DVDs, Gary Franchi DVDs back in the day? As if these content creators even appreciated that. Fast forward to where we are now, some of these same folks are going to call for camps when Muslim false flags go down. And in the world of anti-Themism, if you've been paying attention to 1/4 of what I've been trying to teach you, because I am the teacher here, this is not entertainment. Anti-Themism is not Islamophobia. Islamophobia is not exposing what I have been through and what other ethnic minorities that are not Muslims have been through. Some of us, which are Christian. Anti-Themism is the targeting of ethnic minorities or people that are outside the box of Anglo, Black, and Latino. And in some cases relates to discrimination towards East Indians, other Arabs, Afghans. And as I told you before, Afghans aren't Arabs, but many Arabs have invaded Afghanistan and toyed with Afghan affairs, including Iran, including Pakistan. But when is Jeff Rentz, who calls these refugees subhuman, while celebrating Palestine and maybe even Hamas, when have they truly shown compassion for these souls that are suffering and treated them like a human being? When I wrote Mass Mind Control through Network TV and it was published on Rents, I said, why do people go along with the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq? They edited out, in at least a few versions, the word Afghanistan, but they left in Iraq. And then I would notice the left for years would talk about the plight of millions of dead Iraqis, and they would never talk about the Afghanis because the stage managed 9/11 event. And so there's psychosis in the 9/11 truth movement for not even caring about why 9/11 happened. The truth behind 9/11, the truth behind why they either allowed that event to take place or they manufactured it to justify the deaths of millions of people. And what's happening in Afghanistan is about to get worse, with China working with this illegitimate government known as the Taliban, in which they kill innocent Muslims and Sufis and Sikhs and whatever Christians are left in Afghanistan, right? So they lack the normal human compassion that you would expect from an awake human. And then we see Kevin Barrett, by the way, who has a post over there at Substack saying why we should support the group that starts with H, right? He's speaking of Hamas. And I'm asking myself, why would you say that, Kevin Barrett? Because I'll tell you what, Trump said any immigrants supporting Hamas is not going to be an American citizen. And here we have Donald Trump returning to his rhetoric when he came on the scene in 2015, 2016, of banning immigrants from Muslim countries. But Kevin Barrett, a self-described white Muslim who's popular in the conspiracy truth movement, he gets a pass. Andrew Tate, who's half black, half white, no one's demonizing that combination of genetics. Andrew Tate gets a pass. Going on Tucker Carlson, he talks about reading the Quran in jail, and Tucker Carlson doesn't push back. We can also see Andrew Tate doing some sort of a commercial for Alex Jones's Tangy Tangerine several years ago, physically in studio. That means they know each other personally. That means they're tight. That means they hung out together, probably went out to eat fancy dinners together. Do you understand what I'm telling you about anti-themism? While I also stand against anti-Semitism moving forward, there's always been this pressure towards me to hate Jews. Not only seeing my own father's anti-Semitism, but the anti-Semitism in the conspiracy movement that will bully individuals that don't want to blame Jews for all the world's problems. And I said to a few folks, hey, you can come over to my new Substack as long as you tell me the truth, that you stand against all forms of hate. But you know what? If there are people out there following certain individuals, which I won't name, that are promoting that all the world's conspiracy are coming from the Jews, which certain people are. There are certain people out there that are very popular, that are outside the box of Alex Jones and David Icke, but they are saying something similar. They'll blame the Jews for everything. They'll stand behind the Palestinians and or Hamas in some circumstances, but there's no record of them ever calling out the genocide in Afghanistan, which did not start in the years after 9/11. It started in the late 70s, moving into the 80s, around the time in which I came into this earth. How weird is that? When the Russians killed an estimated 3 million people. And so you have this pro-Russia sentiment, which dominates the conspiracy theory movement. And here the left is being hypocritical, right? Attacking conspiracy theorists as right-wing, white supremacist racists, of which there are some, but they don't take accountability for their own conspiracy theories that in fact may have some truth to them, like the Russian influence behind the modern conspiracy theory movement. I was calling that out. I was calling Russia Today out for years, ladies and gentlemen. I talked with Joel Skousen about the coming Russian threat in 2009 and the potential war by 2025 between the US and China and Russia, and Disclose.tv, without warning me, without telling me to get my video down, straight up removed it. Was it because of my ethnicity? Because they won't allow someone of my bloodline to be in the truth movement to be seen with thousands of views? Or was it because those that manipulate Disclose.tv are involved in what's to come? Okay, so you definitely have a lot of darkness, folks, out of Germany, out of Europe, out of Russia, not just the US. And so there actually is this white supremacy coalition that supersedes nation states. And in the modern Nazism, it's different than the Adolf Hitler Nazism of World War II Germany. So people are making a mistake for trying to compare the modern Nazis to the old Nazis. The modern Nazis will work with some East Indians. They will work with some Latinos. They will work with some blacks, hence the Blacks for Trump. As long as those blacks and those minorities don't get out of line, they will create a spot for them. If they want to be a black conservative, they will allow them to have hundreds of thousands of subscribers as long as they just blame the left. And I understand why many black people, including Eli in Portland, ended up giving the right a pass. and discounting the darkness coming from the right because of the white supremacy and hatred and bigotry of the left. They know the truth about the darkness of the left, but just because there's corruption on the left and with the Democratic Party and their alleged connections to the KKK, that's not to say that you can just flip the other side in this like bipolar world and go from a left-wing radical robot to a right-wing radical robot. It makes no sense, A, for people of color to be involved in the US military, to be murdering indigenous people from foreign lands in Afghanistan, Yemen, and other places, and they are indigenous. Native Americans from North America are not the only indigenous people on the globe. And again, I ask you, what other man or woman has ever told you this? Has ever sat you down and explained to you that there are indigenous peoples, earth bloodlines, natural earth bloodlines that are being eradicated off the face of the globe? Because, you know, I want to tell you, this whole thing that's happening with Arabic letters popping up on certain websites, I'm told that others are experiencing this, even mysterious packages arriving with Arabic letters. This whole thing with Homer Simpson in the Prepper episode, having the word Quran stamped on a box full of prepper gear. This whole manufacturing of the Islamic threat, and Google saying that Muhammad is one of the best men ever, right? Type into Google, who's one of the best men of all time, and it'll have a Muhammad at the top of the list, right? Think about it. Google and YouTube has been promoting hate of these groups, but they're toying with the people in America by manufacturing this perceived Islamic threat and engaging in mass migration, which is not there to help these refugees, which, by the way, do not have permanent status. They have not passed the Afghan Refugee Act or something similar to that, because they may be planning to kick them out of the country later. Especially when these potential Muslim false flags kick off. And there are already many people that question whether the official attack on Israel that happened on the part of Hamas, in which women were kidnapped and potentially sexually assaulted, how did that even happen? With all the weaponry, Iron Dome, and all that security and all that defense. How could that happen in the way that it happened? Unless, of course, those that control Israel wanted it to happen so that they could kill hundreds of thousands. And so it's not going to end with the Palestinians. As you see now, hate crimes against mosques all across the US, but the modern day Muslim, the modern day mainstream Muslim, including those that I have promoted on my channel, like the Sufi down in LA, they will have nothing to do with me or my content. That's fine. My content is not for everybody, but it is for those with the eyes to see and ears to hear. And we should not be motivated solely by making money, making friends, living in palaces. I accept my poverty as I live without proper health insurance, as I live without certain things and people in my life that really a man like me could use. A man like me could really use powerful allies right now in the mainstream media, in the alternative media, in the church, and in leadership in other religions. But see, for years, folks, I thought it was my mixed race ethnicity. And for some people, it is that. But in reality, that's playing victim. And that's what this world wants to make me, through my experiences and trauma, a victim. The truth is, people of my own ethnicity, even people of a similar combination of genetics, like Zoe Ansary, the TikTok model with 11 million likes, like Tamim Ansary, the world famous author who wrote the famous article after 9/11 describing Osama bin Laden as wanting a holy war, which we should not fall into the trap of. This book, by the way, gets into the potential that China was involved in radicalizing Islam in some of those countries. Unrestricted warfare. It comes from an alleged leaked CIA document. It's not a great book, but you know. Now we see China and the Taliban. Very, very interesting. Makes this book look a little bit interesting. So I can think that my demonization had just come from my flesh suit, but we know the truth in the end, don't we? It's my soul, and it's the information that I've got. Whereas I could have been a guy just like Tamim, who's just going to be a historian and stay out of conspiracy theories. I could have been like someone like Zoe Ansary, a male version of that, maybe become a martial artist bodybuilder who believes in violence and right-wing ideology. And if I was to do those things, I'd be buddies with people like Alex Jones. I would be a token on Band.video, or I'd be a token over at Mark Passio's. That's right. That's right. Because what have you ever seen from Mark Passio to expose these wars? He used to talk about dominators and destroyers, but Mark Passio knows better than to criticize the murder of Afghanis and Iraqis. And if he ever does so, he does so quietly, and he does so in brief. And so he's a hypocrite, as far as I'm concerned, for being associated with Alex Jones himself. And so I'm not surprised if I send Mark Passio a message and say, hey, Mark, do you remember that I predicted war by 2025 between the West and the East? No reply. And there were some very questionable folks, mean folks, that have been a part of Mark Passio's For Your Mind conference. And so his level of discernment, in my opinion, is not good. And he wants followers, is what Mark Passio wants. He does not want equals, and he will not see others as equals. And he's full of fucking crap for suggesting that you got to start at episode 1. Don't talk to me like I'm a dumbass, okay? Because I see right through you, and I see right through the way that you are brainwashing some of your followers to keep giving you computers, to keep throwing thousands of dollars. And so he will berate his audience. He will become enraged with his audience, but if I show you anger, oh, I might piss some of you off. Like I said, you are either going to be enlightened by this, or you're going to be offended by this. But I'm here to tell you, just as I said earlier, there's no place, by the way, for blacks that are against racism to be part of the U.S. military, and for blacks that are against racism, that are against slavery, that are against the past slavery of African Americans, of slaves that were brought in chains to America and forced to work, forced to give birth, that were raped by their masters. It makes no sense for them to be running around town with the Punisher logo, right? This whole skull and bones nonsense worship is bullshit. Chris Mulligan put together the book on skull and bones, and the conspiracy theorists ate it up like that. And you see Chris screening they see 322 everywhere. Oh my God, 322 is coming, skull and bones. I'm afraid something's gonna happen. 322, I'm scared of numbers. 666, I'm scared of 333, 33, oh masonry, I'm scared of numbers. And then when the Punisher logo comes out, and people are running around with this inverted skull symbolism, they don't say shit. I told you, folks, if you want to become a more intelligent human being, keep listening to Alex Ansary. You want to become a dumbed down human being, keep listening to David Icke. Keep listening to Alex Jones. Now that we covered David Icke and we brought that up, you think I remember that day in which that woman unsubscribed to my Patreon when I will not put any weight or support the David Icke theory of 5G causing the you-know-what health event? I did not believe that that was true. I do not support the you-know-what, but I don't believe that the people that did the you-know-what should die, and I don't believe that people that took the you-know-what are shedding. I know in my heart, because I have the spirit of discernment, that they have deliberately put fake conspiracy trash in the conspiracy movement to actually encourage people to turn away from anyone that sounds like a conspiracy theorist. And in fact, listen to me carefully, more people probably took the you-know-what because of the fake trash in the conspiracy movement that smelled like dog shit. And there are people out there that think that they're of God right now as we speak that engage in curses. There are people that I've talked to that I thought were my potential friends that straight up say that they want people that took the you-know-what to die. Go to BitChute, right? Take a look at certain channels where they talk about the vaxxed. They think that the vaxxed are the new zombie class, while failing to see and look at themselves in the mirror and see their own zombie-like nature. Look at the reality of the modern day Jew that claims to want to stand against anti-Semitism, how certain Jews out there will allow Nazi white supremacists to come into their platforms and comment racial hatred in the comment sections, and then they will reply, as I've witnessed and documented, they agree. Oh, I don't have problems with Arabs as long as they stay in Arabia. I don't have problems with blacks unless they stay in Africa. What I have a problem with is, like, I get that, but it's hypocritical for Jews out there that don't want anti-Semitism, point at them, to ever agree with a neo-Nazi, because the neo-Nazis hate Jews and they're never, ever going to stop hating Jews. And that's why you see, by the way, neo-Nazis supporting the Palestinians. When the neo-Nazis hate the Afghani, they hate the Iraqi. Unless, of course, it's an Iraqi in Sweden who's going to burn the Quran, to take you back to a few months ago, to inflame the third world, to try to get Muslims to do something stupid. Because a lot of these Muslims with no education, no offense to those of you that do have education, but we all know the truth, don't we? A lot of these immigrants have no education, and they were raised in barbaric environments without running water, without education, without health care. And there is deliberate mind control and targeting of Arabic groups, right? Now that they all got cell phones, right? There's nothing illegal about being a Muslim on planet Earth. And so just because these people are Muslims and they're hated by Nazis and they're hated by the West, that does not automatically mean that these Muslims and immigrants are awake. A lot of them are totally asleep, and they will hate someone like me who's outside of their culture, even if I have a bloodline that is connected to their culture. They don't give a damn. And I think that's because there's a lot of demonic activity influencing a lot of those folks. But like I said, there's a man by the name of can't recall at the time, at the moment, but he's got a channel in which he calls out the Islamic governments with his own conspiracy theory that they are deliberately killing Muslims in Saudi Arabia, in various places, promoting radical versions of Islam, ignoring the truth, as they say about Islam, the peaceful side. And so people in the West seem to have no knowledge of this. Donald Trump can sit there with his hands on the globe with the Saudis, and even if the Saudis who have been believed to have been involved in 9/11 or have supported the 9/11 hijackers, i.e. Osama bin Laden, from the bin Laden family in Saudi Arabia and or Qatar or the UAE, but Trump gets a pass. Trump puts us $5 trillion in debt, more than Obama put us in debt. Trump brought us Operation Warp Speed, but Trump gets a pass. There is no hope for folks like this. So these people waiting for people to wake up, I told you this 10 years ago, if you were listening then, you are wasting your time. Society is not going to wake up. And all you're doing is just bringing yourself more pain in your heart by hoping that people wake up, because it's not going to happen. And I will tell you why in great detail. So, we covered algorithmic manipulation, right? Conspiracy theories following the algorithm, right? Theorists that think that it's just the mainstream lying to them, and they will believe everything off disclosed.tv, banned.video, before it's news.com. Demonic mind control. Fake conspiracy websites with mostly all fake news, before it's news.com, SG Report. There's a lot of websites that I can list. And James Gillen on Facebook posts 99% fake news and information, and there is nothing sane or rational about him supposedly having a love and light audience space that doesn't see through his bullshit. And so there is this conjunction, folks, just like the stars. There is this conjunction. Do you understand what I'm saying? Can you hear me now? Do you understand what I'm saying? There is this conjunction and alignment between the modern New Age movement, Laura Eisenhower, Ramtha, James Gillen, David Wilcox, Corey Good, Jay Widener, who also has reported voices in the head, in an interview with a person that talked recently with Tony Sawyers. They are united with the far-right agenda, even if they claim that they are not. There is no connection, if you will, between, like, to the best of my knowledge, Black Lives Matter or Afghan Lives Matter or Latino Lives Matter or things of that nature with the New Age movement. The New Age movement has people at the top that are promoting Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. And so let me say this. It is a godsend that in 2012, the beautiful woman of Asian heritage by the name of Lisa Wall canceled my interview with her, in which she invited me on to RT to talk about transhumanism, and someone intervened, or maybe it was demonic interference, i.e. voices in the head. And she sends me an email and says, Alex, the interview is not going to happen. I got to go on assignment. So she claimed. And I was disappointed and I was angry. And I actually made a video at that time in a retort to her. And I actually said to her in the email, which of course was probably read by her producers and those that control RT in the Russian government, I told her there's going to be a coming war between the United States and Russia, and it was going to be staged and that we need to expose it. No reply. Fast forward to where we are now, what I have said would come is coming, right? So I sent a message to Liz Wall again, who now is allegedly exposing extremism in conspiracy theories. But what's her agenda? If she really wants to talk about extremism and the dark side of conspiracy theories, let's have a conversation. But a lot of these people that engage in that line of work, that are pointing the finger at all conspiracy theories, they just became extremists themselves, just like the controlled leftists, like Jesse Sponberg, who for years, they would look at 9/11 truth when George Bush was the president. But fast forward to where they are now, they're in a headspace where they're going to act like all conspiracy theorists are white supremacist right-wingers and ignore true minorities like me. They will ignore me when I called out things accurately. And they will ignore my warnings with regards to what is to come. So not only have racists shown me that they don't get better, they get worse. No one has ever emailed me saying, Alex, you have helped me rise above hatred. And women do not email me and say, Alex, we appreciate the fact you've warned about human trafficking, but they are capable of showing a concern about human trafficking. Look at the popularity of Sound of Freedom, which promotes the white savior complex. And even Glenn Beck has called out Tim Ballard for certain allegations that I'm not going to repeat because it's none of my business. And I don't know if it's true or it's not, but I know that there is an agenda behind Exodus Cry, the anti-human trafficking organization. They play up the fear of foreigners while steering people away from calling for accountability with regards to men in the Western culture. They want to act like it's just simply coming from outside the US. And I can get more detailed in that, but if you watch the documentary that came out in 2014, you'll notice that all the kingpins of the human traffickers of the white women were perceived to be Arabic foreigners. When the greater reality is that in this country, in the US, they will allow deep fake porn to be produced where a woman's data is harvested from social media and her face is placed on the face of a porn star. And women that have spoken out against this, that have written about this, have this done to them as well. So whatever's happening is so evil, so dark, and it's not being stopped by our own government, but they will ban MDMA, mushrooms, cannabis, but they will give out pharmaceutical drugs for free, as many as you want, and often in a dangerous cocktail combination that might kill you and drive you into insanity, psychosis, violence, homicide, suicide, or a combination of all of the above, while taking you away from God. That's what those drugs do. They take you away from God. But you have possessed individuals in modern medicine that claim to worship Allah. Yeah, right. Not the true God. Not that there aren't some good Muslims, right? But you have bad Muslims now in power in the modern medical system that straight up, as far as I'm concerned, should go home. Because there's no place in a free America for people from other places to be poisoning people in the modern big pharma system, because those are the immigrants they want. They want immigrants to come in and play a role in the New World Order structure while acting like they're Muslim, while acting like they're Christian. You'll have many, many, many Christians with their churches and pastors and their flocks. And they talk about the lawlessness. And then you try to get them to clarify the lawlessness, the demonic influence over society, right? And they don't have anything to say. And I've been told that a lot of these pastors know the truth about the real demonic influence. But they know better than to say anything about it, because it would mean alienating some of their flock, their members, their followers. And thus, they would be making less money. So who are they serving? Are they serving God? Or are they serving money? Are they serving mammon? When it comes to gang stalking and targeted individuals, when you type in targeted individuals, this is what the algorithm will do. It will suggest the word chosen ones to convince people that if they're hearing voices in the head or they're being targeted, that they're chosen. And I'm telling you that there's a deeper understanding that I have about the targeting program into a lot of people in this culture to target them with technologies and demonic forces, a combination of the both, as these entities ride the lightning, like the Metallica song says. There is no separation between the alleged government gang-stalking program that they talk about and these dark forces. But what a lot of people think is the gang-stalking program or human forces is in fact demonic. And if you try to share this opinion with targeted individuals, they have been programmed through subliminal mind control to literally hate on and or stalk the people that can see. It's like that scene from They Live. I've got one that can see. And so you don't want to talk to TIs or even create content for TIs, because you're going to end up with a lot of people that are already programmed with that worldview. And they did it on purpose. That's why they're promoting narcissism on YouTube. When you type in TIs, it says chosen ones. And if you listen to some of the content from some of these people that say they're being gang stalked, right? They are anything but chosen, right? Some of them sound hateful. Some of them hate certain immigrants. Some of them think Donald Trump is a good guy, right? If you actually take a look at these people that say they're TIs, they're not actually unplugging that cord from the back of their head to stop the quote unquote targeting. They're allowing that influence to take place through their worship of the left-right paradigm. And so, moving on to the next point, you have a lot of liars in the conspiracy movement that say they are free of the left-right paradigm while supporting one or two of the candidates. But I don't know of anyone supporting Biden that is aware of certain conspiracy truths, although there's a few. Certainly in Portland, there's going to be more. And so they think they can support Donald Trump and still say that they are free of the left-right paradigm. TIs also have an obsession with wanting to know where people are. If they're TIs and they're involved in targeting, I'll tell you one brief story. Why are they trying to come over to my off-grid home in Colorado? One guy was saying he was on his way over. Oh man, I'm a TI, bro. I love your work. I'm on my way over right now. I'm sorry, what? You're on your way over right now? I'm targeted, bro. Don't bring those motherships here. I already got my own mothership demonic attack from the Archonic realms coming on. Don't try to bring your stuff into my field. My nightmares are fucked enough. And so the people that really want to overcome what they think is that program really need to do a deep dive into what is really taking place. And I've seen a lot of female black speakers on YouTube call out the spiritual warfare. There is racism, by the way, in Gnostic circles. And so even though I talk about Gnostic thought, but also the Bible, and more so the Bible than Gnostic thought now, I will still use the word archons because I believe that I am a true Gnostic who does not believe do as thou wilt, who does not believe in Baphomet or devil worship, who does not believe that you can just do any drugs you want, who does not believe that you can just have all the sex that you want, who doesn't necessarily believe in sex magic ritual. A lot of Gnostics do. And so you need to understand that there is no like one universal understanding of Gnosticism. And the vast majority of the Gnostics that I come across, I don't want to listen to, whether it be GnosticWarrior.com and his pro-Russia leanings. It's like I reached out to him last night and I'm like, oh shit, bro, you need to look into these folks before you send out an interview request. Think, McFly, think. I do it to myself all the time, not just you guys. It is time, folks, for us to evolve and become more intelligent human beings. Before you send an interview request to somebody, you need to listen to their podcasts. You need to take a look at their work and not just trust them because they say they're a conspiracy theorist, because they say they're against the New World Order, because they say they're a Christian, or because they say they're a Gnostic, right? There's no place, in my opinion, for white supremacy and white genocide hysteria in the Gnostic movement, right? So there's no place in true Gnosticism for the likes of John Lash and other individuals about that. There is no real attempt, in my opinion, to eradicate fully white people. There is, however, mass immigration, anti-white racism, and attempts through the algorithm to convince all white people that they are being eradicated by people that look different than them. there are certain things that are being pointed against black people because they're weaponizing social justice. Do you understand what I'm saying? As the Black Lives Matter crowd, not all of them, but some of them, they're not taught that it's okay to stand against all forms of racism. They're being taught that they are the most discriminated against. And in some cases, as Terry Crews pointed out in his book, Tough, when he pushed back against black supremacy, some of them believe that the darker the skin, the more compassionate. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. I don't engage in racism towards any group, despite having been punched in the head over 7 to 10 times by black Americans in Portland, Oregon. Nowhere else, by the way. But I've dealt with stalking locally where I'm at from one individual, and I prayed for intervention for him to go away, and he went away. We also experienced vandalism with gang graffiti where I live, and they also put 666 vandalism and graffiti in other areas near where I live. It's interesting how our fence was targeted, but nobody else. You think that I'm just going to automatically think that it's gang stalking from the government? Or do you think with my experience that I'm going to know what it really was? Demonic, archonic interference, in which the demons in control of that vandal with the spray paint can, they knew to target us. Despite being assaulted by this demographic, I've never got on board the right wing during the Obama years psychosis that black people would be the apocalyptic threat. And I've had these racist white supremacists in my audience for years for daring to talk about the New World Order, which has been in existence in Nazi circles for years in the 70s, in the 80s, and the 90s. And if you don't know that, you don't know anything at all. And you should do some history. And if you need to read a book, get this from thriftbooks.com for $5 by John Ronson. And you can even listen to Tamim Ansary, even though I don't agree with him demonizing all conspiracy theorists. I understand where he's coming from in the late 90s and the 2000s, in which he did expose the radicalization within conspiracy circles. You know, the Timothy McVeigh types and the militia types in the 1990s. There was a guy who gave me the book, The Turner Diaries, telling me this is how it's going to go down. And it's basically a white supremacist book, novel, set in the future that depicts black people rising up and killing white people. And I'm here to tell you that there's elements of that happening now, but not to the degree that that book is making it out to be. So just because there is black on white violence, which is an issue, and it's something that I have experienced, as I will be seen as white or even ethnic to some of these individuals that may look down upon my ethnicity, as one black man did in Portland, Oregon, who said, "Ain't you one of those Iranians?" When I just simply asked him if he was anti-war. Or how about that guy, Elijah, from the Nation of Islam, who has the TV show Torchlight for America on Portland Cable Access, when he called me a mark with so much violence and spite. He's a former gangbanger, by the way. He still had that gangbanger attitude. And I straight up thought that me and Elijah were going to go to blows. All I tried to tell Elijah was that Obama was a part of the New World Order. And he took so much offense to me saying that Obama was a part of the system that this dude, in my opinion, wanted to kill me. And so it's that spiritual part of me that knows that just because I've been assaulted by this demographic, they still deserve to be treated as human beings. And so I rejected the far-right psychosis from Alex Jones and others that made Obama, the Muslim, as they called him, be the big boogeyman that would bring about black violence towards whites. I'm telling you that violence that's occurring now towards whites is being promoted by the algorithm. And I've been talking to you over and over and over, and I don't know what I need to say in order to get this through some of your thick skulls. But some of you may be listening because you already get it, but you know why this video will only have 10 views with hardly any comments or likes. Because I'm speaking at a level that a lot of people don't want me speaking to them at. Many people will listen to the old Alex Ansary, like Lennon Honor or others, right? But are they going to be listening to the new and improved Alex Ansary that is now calling out how even all black people have been promoted as the enemy, which is not okay. So there's no place, in my opinion, for black people to be joining the right wing just because of the racism of the left and the history of the KKK allegedly within the Democratic Party. They should not be ignoring the true nature of racism in the modern far right just because they are being given a black pass to come to January 6th and partake in it, to be given a black pass, to be the black conservative on YouTube with 1 million subscribers, right? And so I hope those of you that are people of color, right, understand this game that is being played against both white people and black people. And they're promoting both racial supremacy on these algorithms. And that there are foreign governments. I need water. China was involved in promoting calls for violence and rioting in Chicago in 2020, according to reports that I read. Did you ever think about that? Did you ever think for once in your life there could be aspects of foreign governments like Russia and China trying to radicalize both black and white extremists? How many men do you know? Tell me their name in the comment section. I command of thee. Tell me the names of the other people that you know of that are calling out what I just called out. Because if you're honest with yourself and you're not taken over by evil, you would be aware that I'm talking to you about 20, 30 things that no man is. And it's because I talk about these things in combination. It's like a combination of spices and ingredients, like a stir fry with your meat and your red bell peppers and your jalapenos and your onions. And it's much, I'm getting hungry. I'm about to get some Chinese food. I bring you a dish of food that you can eat intellectually. And I give you so much information. And yet I'm being held back by the algorithm. And the brainwashed masses are so sick in the head that when I speak to them about these things, they take off from my videos and they never come back and they don't leave comments and they don't share the work and they don't donate. But for those that do want to donate, brief PSA here, I have brought back my PayPal link now that the honeymoon phase is over of Alex Ansary's return to the internet. And so I do recommend that you do financially support my work and that you do help me get my work out there so that I can get a higher quality level of audience members. Because in my heart, I do believe that there's many people out there of black heritage, of white heritage, of Islamic heritage, of Latino and Asian, even Aboriginal, right? I never meant to leave them out for whatever members are in the audience are of that heritage. I don't think any. I want to see more people drawn to this content in the next couple of months. And I want to say this, I have a Substack page and a secondary Substack page for those of you that will communicate to me that you are against all forms of left-right paradigm and racial hatred. You can have access to my secondary Substack because I'm running two. Substack took $150 from a friend named John before I even set up bank details through the Stripe system. And there is no record of it, of that money being taken. So even though I'm on Substack, I'm going to say this right away. Substack appears to be pocketing money without giving it to the content creators. $150, folks, is a lot of money to a man like me who might only make that in a month or so, who doesn't have health insurance, who spent thousands from the land that he sold at a loss for his teeth. Do you realize how much that bothers me after how hard I worked for that money? So for Substack to make it difficult for me to set up a Stripe bank account and to not have any record of John's money, and for John to have had that taken out of his bank account, means that the Substack corporation, there's something not right here, folks. Because normally, you know, when you donate to somebody through like a super chat on YouTube or Patreon or PayPal, it normally goes to the content creator. With Substack, on the other hand, they have it set up on default when you start up a new Substack to take someone's money, even if you haven't set up your bank details. So I'm here to warn you, and then we'll get back to our main topic. Do not donate to a content creator unless you know that content creator is already receiving an income from that website or has connected their bank details. This is maybe a warning for things to come. So there are these new websites that claim to be helping content creators with their blogs and websites, but they will actually set it up so they can pocket the money without actually making sure that the content creator actually set up a way to receive that money. And so I told somebody else by the name of Paul, who subscribed to my secondary Substack because he wants the full truth without anything being held back. I told him, pull his subscription, cancel it, if it'll even let you do that, and only contribute to me through the PayPal link down below. So if you would like to donate $5 a month, which a lot of you can't afford, but I would recommend $10 a month to $25 a month and upwards of $50 a month, because I am cranking out way more content than I have ever created before, and there's more on the way. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. A lot of these other content creators are. I agree with some of the things from Tim Pool, and I disagree with a lot of the things from Tim Pool. Okay, so I don't listen to him. I don't listen to Alex Jones, even if he is putting out disinformation and calls for violence. And I would ask that you tell me if Alex Jones starts going into dangerous territory, so at least I can commentate on it and discuss it. But I'm not here to start a war with these folks. And that's what a lot of these folks want. People that have messed with me over the years, that have literally come up and pushed me against the wall energetically and attacked me and berated me for trying to assert my value as a human being, just like they assert their own value. But you know what? Their people are not being taken out by drone attacks. And yet they claim that they're victims of genocide when there are no drone attacks in America taking out black communities and taking out white communities. But I'll tell you what communities on earth the drone attacks are taking out. And you should know by now as well. And if you don't know about the people on the earth that are indigenous to the earth, that are being taken out by drone attacks, weddings, funerals, right? Just because the drone program is not what it was, doesn't mean that it's gone away. So if you don't care about those people, but you care about the Palestinians, there's something wrong with the old goal over here. And no one is my friend in reality and spirit if they're okay with millions of these people being murdered. It doesn't matter if people from those countries and those lands and those religions wouldn't spit on Alex Ansary if his ass was on fire. They're human beings. Their life matters. It's like that clip from the movie Network. I'm a human being, God damn it, my life matters. I want you to go out to the window. I want you to lift it up, and I want you to say, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore. It's like people want to encourage people to riot and shout and say they're angry at white genocide and they're angry what's happened to black people. But when it comes to other ethnic minorities, they're like, sit down and shut up. And if you stand up against genocide, we'll claim that you're anti-black. We'll claim that you're anti-white. And we'll say it enough times like Fox News to where maybe we'll say it so much times that even you'll believe it yourself. And so we have mass mind control in the modern conspiracy theory movement. And don't you forget it. Demonization of mixed race humans using Old Testament Bible verses as if they are alien human hybrids. Don't you love my handwriting? You know, I write in code so only I can read it. It's like an old Alex Ansary trick. And so white and black humans, Andrew Tate, that's okay. Black History Month. White woman with a black man, that's okay. Yo, bro, it's okay. It's the new world. But other genetics coming together, oh, that's wrong. There was that woman that had that New Age channel that worked for Alex Jones that came onto my channel one day and said, what we got to do is keep the Muslim men away from the white women, knowing that I'm a product of that. Not that my father's a real follower of religion. I call bullshit on that. But I'm a product of that. And look at what I've contributed to your world. Do you really believe that I'm inferior? If you're watching this channel now, I don't think you do. That's why I only have 10 viewers. That's why this video will never be suggested by the algorithm ever at any time for any reason. But if I want to do a MGTOW video, if I want to talk about those damn women and blah, 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 like I did in 2014, from a spiritual perspective, right? Oh, Sandman, give me a shout out. It's going to be recommended by the algorithm. 500,000 views. Oh, I'm going to expose Joe Biden touching the kitties. 500,000 views. Oh, I'm going to show the man of Irish Scottish heritage being kicked off his land in Costia County while my views will get a few hundred, but I put him on my channel, 500,000 views. Oh, I interview this one guy about grand solar minimum and his theories about the sun dying, 10,000 views. I put my own face on the actual algorithm, 100 views, right? Are you beginning to learn yet from me? Or am I wasting my time? I'm doing this, folks, for those of you that are learning something from me. Let me remind you of something. The YouTube algorithm will promote three races, primarily, from my observation: blacks, whites, and East Indians. If you type in Facebook glitch, for example, and things of a technical nature, you will be bombarded with language in Hindu. But you are a moron if you think that Muslims and Hindus are on the same side. You need to know what these Hindus are doing, these radicalized Indian Nazi Hindus are doing to innocent Muslims in their own country. I watched one video on Twitter of a Muslim boy talking to an Indian woman, and they beat him nearly half to death with sticks this big, right? That's totally satanic. And you know what Twitter is going to do? Twitter is going to keep showing you this violence. That's why I got off Twitter. I was on it all January, February, and March of 2023. And then I saw some really weird stuff, too much violence. And every time I criticized China, weird stuff would happen. And now I know why, because Elon Musk is like this with China. I told you, you got the New Age movement connected here, China connected here, and the far right movement here, and radical East Indians here. And radical extremists of the far right in Germany and Europe here, and in Britain here. With people like Andrew Tate saying like, yeah, okay, Britain's gonna be Islamic by a few years. Holy fuck, dude, I hope not. I have never, ever wanted to see mass Islamic immigration into the Western world. I have always viewed mass Islamic immigration into the West as a personal threat to me. You want to help out these Muslims? You want to help out these immigrants? Just like Stick 66 or whatever the hell his name is, who's big on BitChute. Don't like immigrants? Stop making refugees. Stop bombing their countries. You really want to help refugees in America, right? Relocate them to areas in America where they're welcome. Don't put them in places in America where it's a bunch of Trump supporters and right-wing extremists. What the fuck are you doing? Are you stupid or something? The people controlling immigration don't give a damn about refugees. And the poverty pimps involved in the homeless industrial complex don't care about the homeless. They care about lining their own pockets, as certain people have said at city council sessions in past years. Okay, that's the truth. They're correct. But these so-called loving liberals that act like they care about the homeless, no, they care about contracts. They care about money. Whereas you got a guy like me who survived homelessness, who had his camera thrown in the river. I got to go back to that story because I didn't finish it. Nobody told me that my housing, that I deserved housing. Housing is healthcare. Housing is a human right. There's a woman that I used to have a crush on that came to my meetups. She never helped me when I was homeless. She defriended me for talking bad about Portland. As if I was wrong about what I said about Portland. I was right about that city of witches and warlocks. She goes on with her degree from PSU that her boyfriend probably helped her get. And now on her Facebook, she says housing is a human right. And I unblocked her from Facebook because I used to have an attraction to her and just said, this is what I'm doing now. Do you want to watch my content? She's like, are you still living off the grid in Colorado? That's all you can say to me after years and years of not hearing from me? That's really all you can say? Welcome back to Block, bitch. But hey, you know, it is what it is. You know, don't look back, like the song says. Don't look back. I think it's by Boston. Another great song is Subdivisions by Rush. I mean, I listen to that as my therapy, like all month long before coming back to YouTube. Don't look back. Some of these folks that were in our past that we used to think about sexually, oh man, I wonder what they're up to with that sexy ass. No, man, no. Sinful thoughts be gone. Devil be gone. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. You know, we should evolve beyond thinking about our exes. And sometimes exes come around and just because you had fornicated with someone doesn't mean they're your ex. Yeah, I'll talk to you in the future about what it really means to have a relationship. And in all honesty, even though I'm 43, I've never truly had a deep relationship with the people that I've bedded down with because they never really liked me for me. So some of them will act like, oh, I thought you used me. When in reality, maybe I felt used. Maybe I was the one that felt abandoned, but they may not see it that way. They may not be mature enough to see their own actions and how my feelings were hurt from certain things. So it's amazing how many people will come around 4 years later, like Maria from Australia, who put me down when I was living off grid, says, no wonder you're alone. A lot of them will come back around years later And there's a number of different reasons why I speculate. Me, I'm a truth speaker, so they may be attracted to some of my truth. But if you really love someone, it's never about the physicality. It's about loving them like a brother. You can have a relationship with people and there's no sex involved, and you can strictly be talking to each other over text message or Facebook. However, a lot of the modern women and men, they do fall prey to demonic interference because they're human, of all ethnicities, and they do fall prey to spreading fake news in many cases and believing fear-mongering news. I remember having sexual relations with one woman. I really enjoyed it in 2009, like wacky, wild stuff, bro. Amazing. Still no enlightenment though, just lust. So in 2014, when I became homeless and I didn't stay at her place, later I wonder where she's at, you know? I miss those old days of going at it. And then I see she's got this like of a page, I hate Muslims. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of a Christian are you to just hate people of another religion just because you're now consuming fake conspiracy trash? And so even though I thought about her for many, many years, this particular blonde woman that used to like me, used to call me Ali, and used to say, you remind me of Jesus. You're talking about the teachings of Jesus. Now, why won't you read the Bible? Put me down. Bring me up, then put me down. I hope she's not listening. Suppose at 528 love hurts, as if that's the real frequency that will raise your vibration. More like 432, more like Tibetan singing bells, or rather Tibetan singing bowls. Where you hit the singing bowl and you got that tone. I can't do it. You know what I'm talking about, right? You can go to YouTube. See, here on my audio player, I will rip the audio from lectures and I will play music. This is actually copyrighted, so I can't play too much of it. Imagine that. Copyrighted Tibetan singing bowls. There's a difference between Leonard Horowitz's, and he's his own matrix. We won't even go there. 528 hertz. And then there we go. Seriously, what kind of a YouTube algorithm flags this as copyright? I mean, this is just like nuts. Now it's time for show and tell, ladies and gentlemen. Here's my baby aloe vera plant, right? It got hurt when I bought it at the nursery. It was this long, and it got damaged. But I followed my intuition, and I did my research. It's amazing how I didn't do this off grid. With all that friggin' pot I smoked. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not free. Unless you're going to get it for free and have a constant amount of it. It's like you don't have a drug problem until you run out. That's a quote from my Uncle Bruce back in Oregon. Hope he's doing well. Bruce, if you're watching, be a man or reach out to me. Be a man and talk to me. Tell me that you actually appreciate my content. Use my email. Because if you don't do that, dude, you don't have my respect. This is an aloe vera plant that I bought from the grocery store for $16. I also have one in my room. So now that we're heading towards winter, I'm bringing these inside, and I bought a 150 volt, this is another one here. You can look at the spiritual attributes of the aloe vera plant on YouTube. There's also aloe vera juice that I've been consuming, along with magnesium, along with ashwagandha, whatever it's called, along with something called GABA, so I take these things at night, along with something called valerian root, along with prepping with things like oil of oregano, I took a month off coffee, folks. I'm just letting you know that. I took a month off coffee. And I had some coffee today, and it's like, wow. And so prepping is more than just freeze-dried food, water storage. I just put an order for a 55-gallon drum. Like I said, I prep many times, you know, that prepper PTSD in which you prep, and then you got to move somewhere else and start all over. Check out that video on what it means to be a conscious prepper. And going back into what we're getting at now, so I put an order for a 55-gallon drum. It was $160 from Amazon. When I bought it in Southwest Colorado, it was $100, and I could pick it up directly from Walmart. Now it's not available. And so a lot of humans, getting to my next point, because they don't know about the solar cycles, and the top people that talk about the solar cycles, suspicious observers, other people out there that promote the Ice Age theory, they don't teach their people about what I taught them, even if they follow my work. They see me as a threat. They see me as competition. They have never reached out as friends, not once. They haven't even said the slightest positive thing about me or to me, to my face. All right? You think I don't know why that is? What, do you think I'm some sort of a fool? I'll pity the fool. And so, here's a book. Here's a book from the A-Man, right? Sent to me from the good old Pacific Northwest, Urban Foraging. And so, yeah, not only do I have like this many books on survival preparedness, now in a cabin in Estacada, in which that Alex White character never once emailed me, never once contacted me and said, hey, Alex, your stuff, your photo album, your only photo album, your video with your grandmother, where she talks about your Anglo ancestry in a way your own parents didn't, where you have your cassette tapes, where you have your days in which you acted in the church as the prince in Cinderella in 1993. All that stuff from your youth, bro, they probably threw my shit away, to be frank. Nothing I can do about that. And so all my years of survival books and that crazy ass book, the Turner Diaries, which that maniac gave me, because these are the folks that have been drawn to my work, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, it's not a healthy thing if you're a person of mixed race heritage and you only have people that have a soft space in their heart for Adolf Hitler and Nazism. I want people of color to not only watch my content, but engage in the comment section, right? Because it's not only the brainwashing of human beings, it's the algorithm. So as people say they're being invaded by the third world and whites are being eliminated, answer me this. Why then are whites 95% of the audience? Don't criticize me, I'm not complaining, because they've been my greatest allies. But they've been my greatest allies because they're the dominant demographic in the actual audience. That's why. The algorithm won't take my work to people of color, won't take my work to Muslims, won't show my work to Gnostics, won't show my work to New Agers, won't show my work to the people of Portland, Oregon, despite my videos warning the people of Portland, Oregon. Nor will there be any contacts from people of Portland, Oregon that want to share my content with others. They will judge me, including a man of color who I sent videos to. Hey, Alex, great to hear from you. How have you been? Bro, I was just thinking about you the other day. I was in Aurora, Oregon, where you're from, and I thought about you. And then I sent him my recent video. Never hear from him again. Was it something that I said? Then I sent him another video. No reply. I'll tell you what happened. He was offended by whatever I sent in those videos. And so a lot of white people, a lot of Muslims, a lot of black people that may not have good intelligence, they may hear something that I'm saying and be like, oh, he's against us, without realizing that I'm actually promoting a resistance to all the racism that these algorithms are promoting. But a lot of these people, because of the dark side of the left, they've been co-opted by the right. So when I speak about the Donald, when I speak against MAGA, and I don't see that as something that's going to save us, they may think that, you know, I'm against them or something. If I mention white supremacy, they may feel offended if they're white. If I mention black supremacy, they may deny it even exists without being accountable for what the real algorithm is doing. I don't see Native American supremacy. I don't see Islamic supremacy on the internet. I don't see mixed race supremacy on the internet unless it's black and white together. And you can't tell me that that's not happening when you turn on the programs and that's what you see featured. They are pushing that, folks, to create unrest amongst the people. It's fine if someone black and white wants to get together and have a baby. I have nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is something suspicious about multinational corporations that are tied in with the big banks, the military industrial complex, who murder people like me in other countries with drone attacks. There is something wrong with them acting like this form of human is okay. We want this, but we don't want this. And I'm going to ask you, why is that? Why are they promoting that it's okay for there to be a union of certain humans while other humans should be eradicated? And so, you want to talk conspiracy theories? You want to talk about the real agenda of the New World Order? They have a genocide operation and plan for the Arabic and Middle Eastern world. As far as I'm concerned, that's why my words must be heard in 100 years. And you must take my words and ride like Paul Revere when I am dead. And you better make sure I'm fucking dead before you act like I'm dead. Because when I took off from the internet in 2020, it literally said Alex Ansary obituary, right? What type of AI would do that to a human being? There's no other truther that I've ever seen out there that's put out content of the caliber that I've put out, that has interviewed the people that I've interviewed, that has said the things that I've said. There's not a single truther, male or female, that have ever had the things happen to them that happened to me. Of course, I am still alive, right? I'm not dead like Michael Rupert. I'm not dead like Tracy Twyman. But I'm here to tell you right now, I have no plans of killing myself, but there was a point in time when the COVID thing was kicking off, in which I thought to myself, if this thing is real, if this thing really is going to be taking some of us out, I'm ready to go. And to be honest with you, the way society hurt me, the way in which I was trolled, the way in which my own audience didn't even stand up for me when I took off from the internet, the way they showed that they had no intelligence to understand with some natural intuition and intelligence, like yin yang fusing together. Think the yin yang symbol, intuition, intelligence with the dots in the middle. Anyone with that true power would go, we know why Alex Ansary took off from the internet. We're not naive. There was someone that I had a fling with in 2013 that had the gall to say on Facebook, right, and on YouTube, that she was going to file a missing persons report on me, and I had literally nothing to do with her since 2015. So it's like, dude, when you're in a position like me and you're a true speaker and you engage with certain women, right, they're not commonly going to be your friends later on in time. Quite the opposite. And there's way more I can say about that, but I am going to say that I completely regret ever having associated my relationship commentary with the lowdown dogshit consciousness of the MGTOW movement. Okay, I don't care if you found my video through autosuggest. Just because you may have found my video and you might be a good person doesn't mean that the other people that found my content through the MGTOW hashtag were of the light. All this talk about white women loving foreigner sausage, all this talk about don't be a white knight, don't protect women. I'm sorry, don't protect women. So all that my commentary about protecting women from human trafficking and warning them before it happens, that these things are going to happen during the occupation of America, which may be coming in the future, that's wrong of me. I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be white knighting, right? I have nothing to do with the MGTOW content. And it's because of psychopaths in the MGTOW content that I took down my relationship commentary, and I'm going to bring it back. But I will never, ever, ever, ever make the mistake of using a hashtag for clicks to attract people to my content if they are not already of a higher consciousness. Just back to that individual who passed away in 2010, 2011. His name was Mark, I believe. He was a motorcycle rider and a musician in Portland, Oregon. He played rock and roll, he played bass guitar, and he was big into the white supremacist book called The Turner Diaries. And he gave it to me, hoping that it would indoctrinate me, saying this is what the plan is. And in reality, and that book's worth a lot of money, by the way. There are racial threats coming to white people with the rise of anti-white racism that's out there. But it's not, in my opinion, going to be exactly as the book portrays, which I did not read. But they certainly want to convince whites and blacks right now that they are being invaded by Islam, that the algorithm is pro-Muslim. When you type in world's greatest man, Muhammad comes up. I think that that type of manipulation of the algorithm is wrong. The type of manipulation of the algorithm in the internet right now is that people go to certain websites and YouTube videos and they're seeing Arabic letters. I thought it was just happening to me. Apparently it's happening to some of you as well. And then you have Homer Simpson on the prepper episode, which demonizes preppers as bad people. Homer has the book Quran, the words Quran, on a box of his preps. So as far as I'm concerned, you're not intelligent if you don't know that the true powers that be are faking an Islamic invasion. And they may bring about Muslim false flags to bring about this effect. And I think that Kevin Barrett, with his Substack blog, saying that we should support Hamas is highly irresponsible, and you're not going to see people of color, as far as I'm concerned, get away with that. However, I heard that Black Lives Matter is saying that they support Hamas, but maybe not all people in BLM are saying that. And so you can understand, Black Lives Matter, in many ways, the organization has been used to work against the plight of Black Americans and people of color. So no concern for Afghanistan despite 9/11 truth. You're not a real 9/11 truther unless you're willing to take 1 hour and learn about Afghan history, how it fell into chaos, and then the Russians invaded, killed 3 million, and then there was a civil war in which the US was probably still funding behind the scenes, and Pakistan's ISI was funding radical extremists. The Taliban took over, and they were the excuse for Afghanistan to be invaded and bombed back to the Stone Age. So if you can't connect 9/11 truth with how they attacked a whole region of indigenous people, you don't want the truth about 9/11. I talked about tribalism as the enemy, pseudo-spirituality and health advice, questionable advice with orgonite and colloidal silver. Okay, so we have a lot of worship of orgonite in conspiracy circles, and I'm not sure that orgonite even works. Some people even think that orgonite might attract alien energy. And I do have a smart meter attached to this area. And I'm not sure if the orgonite that I bought should be placed on the smart meter directly, or if it creates a barrier like sugarite in like my windowsill. And unfortunately, folks, I'm within 20 feet of a smart meter and the safe distance is 40 feet. And so I don't deny technological interference. There are some days in which my ears are ringing all day long, and in no way am I thinking that that's demonic or archonic. I'm absolutely aware that it's technological. But when I talk to others about this locally, they don't experience that, but they do experience what's called tinnitus, but they just think that it's a normal condition. And what I think is that you can have that ringing in the ears when you're in a deep spiritual moment. You can experience memory loss without realizing why you have memory loss. You'll be about to talk about something and you just forget about it. Not all memory loss is genetic or caused by old age. Memory loss can be caused by certain technologies and or entities using those technologies. I also called the local government and asked them if the smart meters were 5G. They never were contacted or asked that question in a region of many, many human beings. Nobody but me. I was the only one in this region of North America that picked up the phone and asked them, is your technology 5G? And the second question was, can I buy one of these shielding devices as available on Amazon that you literally screw onto it? And they says, no, you can't do that. You'll face repercussions if you do that. That's what we call tampering with the device. Then I called the water department, the smart meter department in California. And I asked that individual, and he calls me back, leaves a voicemail. He's like, Alex, got your phone call. Yeah, you can't do that. That's what we call tampering. It's like these long, awkward pauses with this deep, booming voice. I was going to share with you the voicemail, but it's been mysteriously removed from my phone. But I'll tell you, it's really awkward when you see people all over the internet talk about conspiracy theories. But I, in a populated part of America, I call the local water department, I call the local smart meter department, and I'm the only person that ever bothered to place a phone call to ask if we can put a shielding device on it or if it's 5G. I don't know if colloidal silver is legit. Okay, I don't believe in the blue man syndrome. I think people that buy that are insane. Okay, you're not going to drink colloidal silver and turn into Papa Smurf, just like that video on YouTube. But there's a lot of people out there that ignore aspects of healthy living, that get into veganism, that are all about protecting the animals, when again, they don't care about people from other countries. And there's many people that are into Nazism, tribalism, white supremacy, and take the black pill, that are involved in nature worship, Odin worship, and supposed spirituality. And they might be into fairies and crystals and rocks, but that doesn't necessarily make them spiritual. So I really question the sanity of today's conspiracy theorists when they spend all this time on veganism, colloidal silver, orgonite, and they fail to show compassion for the victims of war. Lack of support of off-gridders. There's a big lack of support in the conspiracy movement of off-gridders. I was off-grid for a number of years, as you should know by now. And if you don't, right, there's archives on YouTube. And by the way, in the winter of this year, I will be bringing back my archives of different categories. I deliberately removed them to deliberately sabotage my own channel, right? Now confessing before you all in the name of Jesus Christ, because I'm so psychically sensitive that I didn't even want to deal with people's comments. The reason that comments aren't open on my old channel in recent videos is because when people comment, it's like transhumanism. I'm notified of their comment in my psychic brain. The reason I took out my Facebook group, Outside the Box with Alex Ansary, and I just have a page, is that when people were talking about me, speculating as if I was dead, I was seeing it in my dreams. And my dreams were so invaded by this invasive force into my personal life space, by people speculating about my death, that because I chose to not be on Facebook at that time, instead of having the foresight to just make my group private, I sat there for an hour, removed everybody, and removed the group itself. And you know what? I regret that. But it was wrong of folks to come into that group to talk about me as if I was dead just because I wasn't alive. There's a lot of people out there that think that they're awake, that have shown themselves to have no intelligence and no intuition, and honestly, no compassion. There is silence in the conspiracy movement about the rise in anti-Asian sentiment. So a lot of people just got on the board of the virus coming out of China, yet they still ignored everything that I had to say about China. And a lot of them got involved in fake news promoted by Steve Quell and others of the Chinese invasion when it's not happening. Okay, it didn't happen in 2003. They didn't invade Texas to the Mexico border, and they did not invade the United States through Canada. So when I took down that interview with Leon Nagant and my interviews with Joel Skousen, that was done to prevent people from sharing my work in far-right conspiracy trash circles, because I don't need to have a large audience of people that are brainwashed looking at my work. Don't want them here. I'd rather talk to 10 of you that have the gusto and the intelligence, right? It's like you compare my health right now to where I was a year ago, and I've come a long way. My endurance has come a long way. My ki and my prana and my chi has increased significantly, right? And so the new Alex Ansary, as opposed to the old Alex Ansary, with his intellectual strength, with his energetic strength, with his spiritual strength, with his psychological strength, with his refusal to be walked on by the monsters of this world, which I allowed people to do to me in the past, right? A lot of people aren't going to like the new Alex Ansary, who's telling it like it is, who's calling out all the forms of racism, who's calling out all these fake Muslims and Christians. They're going to want a co-opted Alex Ansary that's going to speak in a cracked voice. Listen to me 3 years ago, 6 years ago, 9 years ago, and then listen to my vocal cords in 2023. There's a difference. And so there's people that used to be in my past. One guy's like, hey, Alex, you want to go out for some beers? You want to go shoot the shit? Then he starts watching my content. All of a sudden, we're not talking anymore. And I know why we're not talking anymore. Because he doesn't like the new Alex Ansary. He doesn't support January 6th. He doesn't like the new Alex Ansary that calls out the left and the right. He doesn't like the Alex Ansary who calls out the Kool-Aid drinking of today's Trump supporters, just like how he called out the Kool-Aid drinking of the Obama supporters. They want an Alex Ansary that's co-opted, that's going to sound like Alex Jones. I'm telling you, you can't mix me and Alex Jones. You can try, but you're just wasting your time. You know, you don't mix strawberries and gravel. You know, you don't put like motor oil on a stir fry, right? And so there is an anti-Asian sentiment rising. And I'm the man who's going to be man enough to tell you, not only are we going to be dealing with potential attacks from North Korea and China, we need you to stand up and defend Asian Americans from hate crimes. Is Alex Jones saying that? Is David Icke saying that? One of the individuals that slandered me in the past, who has an allegiance to Russia and fake news, who worked for a fake news disinformation outlet in 2015 and 2016, who targeted me for daring to talk to him and then blocking him on social media, he was a flat earther. When I produced my ebook on the sun, because I talked about the archons, and he insisted that I only talk about demons from a Christian perspective, and he insisted that I believe that the earth is flat, and he hated me for other reasons. There was a reason why he did what he did, and the AI algorithm is recommending, just so you know, my Facebook profile to flat earthers. And flat earthers are at war with the sun. They believe that the sun is a light bulb, and they believe that if you believe that the earth is a globe, that you deserve to die. There are people that I have heard that are in the flat earth movement that want people that don't think like them to die. So flat earthers are not my friends, will never be my friends. If they're acting like my friends, they're portraying themselves as something that they're not. Okay, because they do promote flat earth content next to neo-Nazism, which is why you find Jew haters and Holocaust deniers that are also consumers of flat earth content. If you were of higher consciousness, you would understand that I'm a greater friend than you'll ever realize. I have the power to help you wake up now from your psychosis. And all that flat earth stuff has nothing to do with your spiritual evolution beyond this plane of existence. So I don't want flat earthers sharing my content and encouraging other flat earthers to come into my realm or in my world, because I will never conform to their worldview. And it is nothing but suspect to me for anyone to suggest that I accept that psychosis. They said the earth was flat in the 1500s. And they persecuted the Gnostics. And they persecuted the people that they claimed were against Christ. The reality is the sun is powerful. And the reality is the algorithm is going to promote anybody that gets involved in saying that there's an ice age coming, that it's a grand solar minimum. And so, just like Satan talking to the Buddha, also known as Maya, just like Satan talking to Jesus in the wilderness, I will give you everything if you just lay down and worship me. I will give you women. I will give you praise. I will give you fame. I will give you fortune. There are so many people out there that are using these social media websites for their own dark agendas that they're being rewarded with a massive, massive following. Whereas people that tell the truth about the sun and tell the truth about our spiritual connection, they will be attacked by the right-wingers, the left-wingers, the flat earthers, and those that falsely believe that the sun is going to die. What other truther do you know that was chronically homeless for 10 years? What's his name? What's her name? We talked about the problem with blacks commingling with Nazis just because they are being accepted by the new Nazism. People claiming that they are free of the left-right paradigm when they're not, and they support Trump or Obama. People think that they're against racism while following folks that push hate of all migrants while defending Palestine because they hate Jews. Jewish conspiracy theories, right? And so there's a reason why I don't talk to my neighbors. In this day and age in which we probably want to talk to our neighbors, right? Because we want to be prepared for the things that are to come. I know the true nature of human consciousness today, and it isn't a pretty sight, right? And so I will energetically feel out people and access my intuition and take a look in my heart. Are they listening to QAnon nonsense? Even if they don't have Trump stickers outside, you know, by listening to people, how they treat their kids, how they treat each other, if they engage in heavy alcoholism and partying and things of that nature, right? There was a major party house in my neighborhood several years ago during COVID, and even though I wasn't in support of the lockdowns, you do realize that during the lockdowns it did bring out the criminal behavior. Also, the party, aspect of psychology and what shootings go down in major cities, where there's street racing, where they take over the streets and they just spin their tires. And in so many ways, we have seen society lose its shit. And so as a human being who's faced real exile from human beings, including both sides of his bloodline, which is why I don't believe that either side of my bloodline is superior. In fact, by being a combination of these bloodlines, I speak of things that no one of my mothers speak of, my mother's side of the family. And my father's side of the family, they don't speak of these things either. But I, a combination of these genetics, who's of mixed race heritage, who's not half black, half white, which is totally okay in today's day and age, but of a different combination, people look down on me and act like I'm a person to oppress and harm. And that's not okay. And so it's through my life experience that I know the true nature of what the New World Order is doing. Sometimes when I leave comments on other channels, those comments don't go through. So I cannot comment on BitChute. I cannot comment on most channels. And if I ever say my name, Alex Ansary, check out my work, type in Alex Ansary into Substack. Oftentimes my comment won't go through. A couple other points, and then we're going to close. I don't know if I got into the solar flares in depth, but the other reason why there's a lot of conflicts when there's solar flares is because when we have the geomagnetic storms and we're affected by it, while people like me might feel an explosion in strength and speed and passion and drive of all kinds, others, they go to sleep. They become zombies. They're operating at 1/4 or 1/8 of where they normally are operating at. Then you have road rage. You have people honking in traffic because you got a person driving 10 miles an hour because they ain't thinking right. And so a lot of humans, they'll sit there and they'll clutch their heart when there's a geomagnetic storm, and then you try to tell them, hey, this is caused by the geostorm. They're like, no, it's not. This is caused, yes, by the geostorm and the partial eclipse and the full moon. No, it's not. They will falsely think that they are weak people if they admit that they are affected by this cosmic light in the sky, which many of us, right, are told by disinformation individuals that it's a light bulb. There's many people out there that think they're followers of Christ or Christianity that also believe these things about the sun when there's nothing in the Bible saying that. In fact, according to the world religions, God made the sun and the moon. But when I made a video about the sun and the moon being the eyes of God, when I was having a spiritual experience at a lake in Southwest Colorado, half the videos, half the likes, the dislikes. It was half likes, half dislikes. By me merely saying that the moon and the sun come from God, conspiracy theorists that don't have genuine spirituality, that believe David Icke's theory about the moon and other people's theory about the sun, they're going to feel threatened by what I'm saying. And the demons that are attached to these people will make them angry with me when all I'm trying to do is help them. One final story. So like I said, I've been attacked by certain demographics online and in the real world. And despite that, I don't engage in racism towards them. Meanwhile, you have many blacks and many whites that hate people of my kind or my mixed race heritage or people from my father's country, yet they never once in their life have been clocked in the head and nearly knocked out unconscious by Afghanis, Iraqis, people from Yemen, or people from Syria. They have just been victimized in their own mind. And so that's hypocrisy, that's sickness. I noticed recently, because I spent a lot of time in the sun this summer preparing to come back to the internet, I told myself it would be 2024. And I'm telling you, when the eclipse came in October, I knew it was go time, right? There was no holding back. For my own sanity, for my own health, I had to return. It's like, you got to strike when it's hot, when the burner's hot. Sometimes you got to go with the flow. I'm picking up on this woman who walks her dog in my area of African-American heritage and descent. And I pick up on the energetic fact that she's spiritual without knowing her, and picking up on the fact that by her walking around my area or near me, that there was an exchange of energy, like psychic energy. Like literally, I would look outside, you know, because I like to do that once in a while, just keep an eye on what's outside. And I would notice that I'm psychically tapped into people that walk by where I'm at. And so I will look outside at that exact moment, and I'm thinking to myself, man, don't let her see you looking outside. She probably is going to wig out thinking that you're paranoid. And so I will just have this natural psychic intuitive feeling when there are people energetically coming towards me. And so I would say that when some of us, we have a spiritual, powerful aura or field, people will often look up when we're in their presence. It's like there's this guy at the natural food store who's got some really dark, what I would call, the vibe that I get is prison energy. Bald head, angry face, working in the nutrition department, hates his job. He's got that, I've spent half my life in the joint energy. And so when I walk around the corner, I see him look up. And I'm just like, just don't look at that guy. Just get your stuff, keep moving on. So some people of a lower nature, just like I talked about with Steve Baggs, when he was calling out my name on November 27th, 2022, at the moment on Twitter, Alex, where are you? It's time to get on TikTok. It is time to get back to the internet, but not on TikTok, you fool. That same day, and nobody commented on this video, which disappoints me, right? You should have got something from that, really. On that same day, November 27th, 2022, I upload a video critical of the modern medical establishment and Big Pharma from things that I've studied in recent years. Isn't it interesting that the very day that I upload a video anonymously to the web is the same day that this guy screams out my name? And so when I talk about dark psychics and why I left the internet, a lot of people were tapping into my energy field from a psychic perspective that were not of the light. So it's not the truth for people to say that people on the dark side can't be psychic. There are plenty of people that are into the dark arts that engage in remote viewing. So back to this final story before we close, right? I'm picking up on this woman's energy, and I tend to be looking outside around the time that she's walking by. And I'm like, wow, this is some serious synchronicity. This is like some psychic linkage shit. Well, I followed my intuition about 3 months ago, right around the time my mom also expressed that she felt that due to the attacks on mostly white women where she's living in an urban environment, that, she talked about getting some pepper spray. This is also some bear spray, which I'm sure most of you already noticed up here. This is my home defense, as I do not own a bazooka. Do not own a 9mm. It's also the hypocrisy of the conspiracy movement that they're so pro-gun, yet they don't care about people like myself that have been disarmed by simply making a mistake. So I find it hypocritical when they talk about the Second Amendment, but they don't care about people like myself that have been disarmed for mistakes that I have made, right? It's just not right. So I felt the intuition 3 months ago, 4 months ago to get this. And it's amazing that for the amount of years that I lived off grid and I lived on the road and I lived in dangerous situations, I did not carry weapons. I did not carry knives. There's some things that I carried, but very, very rarely have I ever been in a situation where I actually needed those things. But I have been assaulted, and but I've never been knocked out. And again, I talked to you about some of those experiences in the past. And so sometimes when we feel the call to get something, it may not actually be about defending ourselves. It may actually be about defending someone else. So I'm going down the road 1 month ago, and my intuition is telling me, don't leave home without this. And so I'm going down the road, and what do I see? There's the African-American woman with her dog being jumped on and attacked by another dog. Because some people don't keep their dogs, right, on their property. They run around and they do whatever they want. Because there's a lot of bad pet owners out there. A lot of them abuse their animals too and make them aggressive. I see what's taking place, and I pull over and I ask her, do you want my help? Having never maced anyone in my life, and having never carried mace in my life, I asked her if she wanted me to use the pepper spray, because I'm not about to fight a dog who's jumping on her and her dog. The dog wasn't taking big bites that I could tell, but it was jumping up on her, and she had a cane, and so she's limping with one leg trying to fight this dog off. And so I come over with this same mace, which still has some sprays in it. Here, let me test it out now. I give it a squirt, and the dog stops what it's doing, and it goes over to the grass, and it's doing that thing. And I swear, I felt so bad for the dog. I don't know if the woman even thanked me, but she took off. And I remember just praying for the dog for that moment. And we all know pepper spray, the sting does go away. I haven't been maced myself. Some of you may have been. I've never also been physically harmed by the police, even though I've had legal trouble in my past, and I've dealt with major interference on that level that I've talked about in longer podcasts on my Substack. I have never actually been manhandled. So maybe angels have always been with me. Even when I experimented with drugs in the late 90s, I would say angels were always with me. I never caught Hep C, right? And I never ended up doing something super bad that would have landed me in major legal trouble. I got out while I was ahead because I had angels already assisting me. So what I'm saying to you now is, for reasons beyond my own ego and my own strength, right? I haven't had to use pepper spray. I haven't had to have a gun. And while I could be taken out of this world at any time because I'm living in an area that's surrounded by maniacs with guns, criminals with guns, the law enforcement harassment here locally is not as bad as it is when I was younger in Portland, Oregon. The law enforcement harassment in Southwest Colorado was almost non-existent. I did get a ticket, right? But they didn't tow my car when I, at that time, was naive enough to drive without insurance. I always have insurance now. Another reason why you should support my work on PayPal, so that I can always afford my car insurance. But what I'm telling you is, I think that it was divine and of God for me to be there at the right time to defend this black woman from this dog that was jumping up on her. And so even though I've been assaulted in my life by some African Americans in Portland, Oregon, and ripped off when I was a drug addict, I will still come to the aid of someone black, white, even if some whites have berated me on the internet, because I believe in rising above the illusions of separation and never ever judging a race based on the actions of a few. But however, a lot of Latinos, blacks and whites that are right wing, they will still blame all migrants and Middle Eastern people for 9/11, even if the people around them know that 9/11 was a you-know-what. Finishing up the story and then closing. Like I said, my camera was kicked out of my hands in 2014 in Portland, Oregon, when I went to buy a crappy dime bag of weed because it was like a dime bag for 20 bucks. And when they started advancing towards me, I pulled out my camera and I started filming that black individual. And then his white friend picked up my camera and threw it in the river. And then a big bouncer type guy stood up as if I'm not supposed to defend myself against the white and the black guy. He's a big Latino guy, and he's going to beat me up with them if I dare to fight them. And I yelled to them, "Why are you doing this to me? I'm homeless." And one guy who knew me said, "You aren't homeless. You live in your truck." And so this is the evil of people in Portland, Oregon. Even when you're homeless, if you have something that some homeless don't, they will still see you as somebody that deserves everything that you have coming to you because you have a car. One time my car was towed when I made the mistake of driving without insurance, which I don't do anymore. I went into a coffee shop on 20th and Burnside in the year 2010, and I told them that the cops just towed my car. And that white woman that drives the bicycle that thinks she's a loving liberal, love and light, you know what she told me? You deserve it. You deserve it because you drive a car. And people that drive cars, well, they're evil. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you understand what I'm doing here. I am a bright light in a conspiracy world that's basically controlled by Satan. And if you want to see my message get out there, if you want to see me get back in the ring and continue to strike out against these demonic forces peacefully and to expose the things that I'm exposing, you need to volunteer. You need to help me edit a book that I'm going to write if you have that type of skill. Okay, you need to share my content with others. you need to save certain videos in the event of my death or disappearance and reshare those on larger websites when the future comes, when these world events come. And I recommend that you donate to my work through PayPal. For those that do have the means, I want to thank Archie. I want to thank Michael. I want to thank Paul for your $20, $25 donations that came in recently. That $75 that was just given to me over the course of the last week is obviously going to my preparedness items and the food that I am now accruing. So with that, we're going to bring this to a close. I pray in the name of Jesus that you be protected in mind, body, and spirit, and that you survive the coming challenges, and that you receive the true spiritual teachings that you need to receive at this time to overcome the draconian, demonic, archonic jinn mind control that is now very pervasive in our world. I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within.